All right, let's talk about something I guarantee you have experienced more times than you can possibly count. It's gotta be one of the most common and maybe one of the most invisible frustrations on the entire internet.
You know the feeling, right? You're trying to sign up for something, maybe buy a ticket, or just submit a simple form. You are so close to being done.
You've gone through, you've carefully entered all your information, you take a little breath, you click that big, promising submit button, and then what happens? Yeah, the page just reloads with some super vague message like submission failed. Or even worse, it just reloads with no explanation at all, leaving you totally stuck. It's just a dead stop. And that's the big question, isn't it? What did I do wrong? Was my phone number in the wrong format? Did I, miss a required field? The form isn't telling you anything. You have just slammed into an invisible wall.
And, while that's incredibly annoying for most of us, it turns out that for millions of people, it's way more than just a momentary frustration. It's a complete barrier.
I mean, just imagine for a second if you couldn't see the little red outline that pops up around an incorrect field. Or what if you relied on a device to read the web page out loud to you? If that error isn't described in text, you might have absolutely no idea that anything is wrong. You're just stuck. So this is a huge deal, and it affects a lot of different people. We're talking about users who are blind or have low vision, who rely on text descriptions being read aloud. Or people with color vision deficiency, who might not even be able to tell the difference between a red border and a black one. And of course, for anyone with cognitive or learning disabilities, clear instructions are absolutely essential to get through a complex task. Now, many of these users depend on what we call assistive technology. A really common example is a screen reader, which is basically software that reads all the text on a page out loud. So think about it. If an error message is just a visual thing, like a color changing, a screen reader has nothing to announce. The user is left completely in the dark. Luckily, there is a clear, established standard for solving this exact problem. It's part of something called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG for short. And the specific rule we're talking about today is 3.3.1. Now, what's so great about this is how simple and straightforward the official language is. It really doesn't get much clearer than that. Basically, if the computer knows there's an error, it needs to tell the user what the error is and where it is using words. Simple as that. And that's it. That is the entire takeaway right there. Identify the error and describe it in text. It's such a simple rule, but it makes a world of difference. It's the key to finally breaking down that invisible wall.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? I mean, it's one thing to talk about the rule, but it's a whole other thing to really see it in action. Okay, so here are some of the most common mistakes we all make. Maybe you forgot a required field. Well, instead of just highlighting the box, the fix is adding the text, email address is a required field. Or say you put letters in a phone number field. The fix is simple. Phone number must only contain numbers. It even works for something like an out-of-range value, like if someone accidentally types next year for their birth date. A clear message instantly solves that confusion.
And here it is, the side-by-side comparison. On the left, you've got what so many of us see all the time, a vague, invalid input message. Maybe a red highlight if you're lucky. It's basically a puzzle you have to solve. But on the right, you have the solution. The field is clearly labeled, and the error is specifically described right there. Please enter a valid two-letter state abbreviation. One is a dead end, the other is a helpful guide. So for anyone out there who's building a website or an app, it all breaks down into these three simple steps. First, you identify what's mandatory. Second, you validate what the user actually puts in. And third, and this is the most important part, if there's a problem, you describe it clearly in text. That's the whole process. When we kind of step back and look at the big picture, it becomes really obvious that this isn't just about compliance or, ticking a box for a specific group of users. This is actually about the fundamental principles of good communication. And that's the real insight here. Designing for accessibility doesn't mean you have to make some separate, special version of your product. It actually means making the main version better for absolutely everyone. It forces you to be clearer, more direct, and just more helpful in your design choices. I mean, think about it. Have you ever been confused by a form? Of course we all have. A clear error message that says, hey, your password needs one capital letter, helps you just as much as it helps someone using a screen reader. Good design is just universal. So the next time you're building something, or heck, even just filling out a form yourself, think about this question. The goal should never be to just point out a failure. It should be to provide a clear path to success. And that path, it turns out, is paved with words. Thanks for tuning in.